February 14, 2026. The world watches a tense standoff in the South China Sea. A Chinese Coast Guard vessel and a Philippine supply ship, separated by meters, engines rumbling, radios crackling. To outsiders, it's another dispute over reefs and resources. But for Beijing, it's a replay of an old story, one that began with wooden warships and British bayonets, not satellites and steel. The echoes of history shape every move. China's leaders see today's confrontations through a lens ground by nearly 2 centuries of trauma. Words like sovereignty and territorial integrity aren't just diplomatic jargon. They're shields against the ghosts of humiliation. Every foreign patrol, every legal challenge, is measured against a yardstick of past pain. The world sees a rising superpower. China sees itself pushing back against tides that once threatened to drown it. The shadow of 1842, the year of the First Opium War's end, still stretches over these waters. The rules-based order is viewed in Beijing with suspicion, a reminder that rules are often written by victors. When Western leaders urge China to follow international norms, Beijing hears echoes of gunboat diplomacy. To understand China's actions today, we must look back, past headlines and drills, to the foundational trauma that shaped its psyche. The standoff in the South China Sea is not just about a reef, it's about rewriting the final act of a very long play. Western diplomats speak of a rules-based order, the UN, WTO, treaties for peace and prosperity. For China, rules first arrived on British warships, cannons aimed at Qing ports. These weren't rules of cooperation, but of submission. The lesson was brutal. International law is a tool of power, and the powerless have no say. This memory fuels China's skepticism toward Western-promoted systems. When accused of undermining the order, China recalls when that order justified the carving up of its territory and the forced opium trade. Today, China joins global institutions to leverage them, but also builds its own, like the AIIB, seeking to become a rule maker, not just a rule taker. The goal: ensure the rules never again arrive at the point of a gun. In the early 1800s, China's trade surplus with Britain led to a sinister solution: opium smuggled in from India. The Qing tried to stop the trade. Britain responded with war, overwhelming China's defenses. The Treaty of Nanking forced China to pay indemnities, cede Hong Kong and open ports, marking the start of the unequal treaties. A second Opium War brought more humiliation. Foreign troops burned the old summer palace, a deep psychological blow. These defeats shattered China's sense of superiority and began the century of humiliation. The wars taught China that moral arguments and ancient civilization were no match for Western power. The result: a lasting template of viewing the world as dangerous, where weakness invites exploitation. The Opium Wars opened a century of humiliation. Foreign powers carved up China, imposed unequal treaties, and stripped away sovereignty. Disasters followed: lost wars, internal rebellions, and foreign spheres of influence. Humiliation was personal and cultural. Chinese were made second-class citizens in their own land. The burning of the old summer palace symbolized the assault on China's dignity. This era forged a link between national weakness and personal indignity. Today, this narrative is central to Chinese nationalism and the Communist Party's legitimacy. The memory of humiliation explains why sovereignty is so emotionally charged, and why foreign interference is so fiercely resisted. From defeat and subjugation, China's leaders drew 4 hard lessons that still guide policy today. First, weakness invites exploitation. Only strength deters predation. Second, trade without power is submission. Economic engagement must be backed by military strength. Third, International law is a tool of the powerful. Moral arguments are ignored if not backed by force. Fourth, only power guarantees security. Virtue and appeals to conscience are useless without might. These lessons bred cynicism toward universal legal orders and a relentless focus on building national power. China learned that to be respected, it must be able to back diplomacy with credible force. The trauma of the past became a blueprint for the future. These maxims are not abstract. They are the foundation of China's modern strategy. Never again would China allow its destiny to be decided by others. The lessons of humiliation are the software running China's foreign policy today. Massive military modernization is an insurance policy against ever being helpless again. China's approach to trade is strategic, using state power to avoid dependence and build leverage. Initiatives like Belt and Road create new economic ecosystems with China at the center. Skepticism of international law is visible in the South China Sea, where China dismisses unfavorable rulings as Western tools. China prefers bilateral deals, where its power gives it an edge. Assertive wolf warrior diplomacy signals strength to both domestic and global audiences. The era of hiding strength is over. China now demands respect. The lesson moral suasion is meaningless without might. The memory of humiliation erupts when triggered by modern events. In 1999, NATO bombs hit China's embassy in Belgrade. The West called it a tragic mistake. China saw a deliberate insult, a modern echo of gunboat diplomacy. Massive anti-American protests followed, fueled by the ghost of the century of humiliation. In 2001, a U.S. spy plane collided with a Chinese jet near Hainan. The Chinese pilot died. The American crew was detained. China saw this as a violation of sovereignty and demanded an apology. The U.S. issued a carefully worded letter, which China presented as a diplomatic victory. Both incidents show that for China, foreign policy is always shaped by historical memory. Every crisis is a test of national dignity. The past is never just the past. It's a living force in China's response to the world. These events reinforce the lesson only strength commands respect. The ghosts of humiliation are never far from the surface. The central promise of the Communist Party is China's great rejuvenation, restoring its rightful place as a respected global power. This means economic prosperity and, crucially, full territorial integrity. Taiwan is seen as the last unhealed wound of humiliation, its separation perpetuated by foreign interference. Reunification is a sacred mission, not just a geopolitical goal. Hong Kong's crackdown and South China Sea actions are steps to erase the legacy of unequal treaties. Every move to assert sovereignty is a step toward closing the chapter of humiliation. For the party, delivering rejuvenation is the core of its legitimacy. On these issues, compromise is nearly impossible. Is China's foreign policy paranoid and aggressive, or a rational response to a painful history? To the West, China's actions look revisionist and expansionist, using history as a pretext for bullying neighbors. China's narrative of rejuvenation is seen as dangerous nationalism. But from Beijing's view, it's pragmatic and defensive, ensuring it can never be victimized again. Military modernization is deterrence, not conquest. Skepticism of international law is rooted in bitter experience. China seeks respect and a fairer order, not chaos. The truth lies in the tension. China is both a rising power and a nation haunted by vulnerability. Until the dream of rejuvenation is fulfilled, the echo of British gunboats will shape China's path.